2 or 3 months a year in Zanzibar, and I developed a science education program in Zanzibar at the secondary school level, building on all of my primary school science experience in the United States. I'm one of the early developers of hands-on science. So if you had hands-on science in primary school, I was in that group that invented those 21 ideas, and they've been going ever since. So I went to Zanzibar, and one thing led to another. Now I'm working with the Maasai people. I've been working with them for 10 years. But once you're in that community, we started with stoves, trying to get the smoke out of people's houses, trying to make them more efficient, less carbon dioxide emissions, all that. We started with stoves and solar systems. But okay, here is the list of things we do now. We still do stoves. We've got about 2,500 homes with our chimney stove. They all have solar electricity, either in a grid or individually. We have clean and safe water now for, I have to think about how many families, well, anyway, we're just starting I'll talk about that when we get into the water thing. We've got a big organization of women with a cattle business. We've got widows organized in 9 villages with goat businesses. We're starting a cow food factory so that we can help with cow food, supplemented cow food when there's no grass for the cattle. We've got a feedlot to demonstrate to the pastoralists how to take care of their cows when there's no grass. We're breeding a special kind of cow. We've got a dairy, and we've got an education center. What's happened here, you say, what the hell? Why are you doing so many things? I'm the only outsider. I'm in the community. I don't go native. I don't, I'm an American. I bring ideas. I bring ideas from the outside. There's no hocus pocus about, oh, the local people know what they need. Listen to them. Oh yeah, you listen to them, but you also bring ideas. If you don't bring ideas, what the hell are you doing there? Of course you bring ideas, and you trust them to say no if they don't like your ideas. But if you're a wealthy American, I'm not a wealthy American, but as an American, I'm wealthy in the world, I'm not a wealthy in the American scene. If you're a free American and you've had a great education and you've had lots of freedom, you've had lots of ideas, and you have a freedom, a playful freedom. And poor people don't have that kind of playfulness because they live near the edge. They live, they don't have a lot of margin in their lives, so they can't play around. So you owe it to them to bring the creativity that's come from your personal freedom. And they can say no if they're not interested. So you have to have that respect for them. You don't keep your ideas away from them. You have respect for them that they're going to say no if they don't. So we went from one thing to another. I've been there 10 years. We're doing all these things. Now I have a couple of principles. Here are my principles. Think inside the box. There's way too much innovation. There's way too much people saying, oh, we're so bright, we've got to come up with new things for the poor. Maybe what they need is what we have. You've got to think of that as a possibility. That you don't always have to invent something new for people just because they're poor. Maybe they need what the rich have. Oh, but the rich are screwing up the world. Okay, don't screw up the world with it, but maybe they need it. Maybe they need more light, more electricity, more energy, cleaner water. Who knows? The second one is reinvent the wheel. Again, don't be so innovative. Take things that work, and bring them there and see if you can reinvent them in the form that's appropriate for them. Reinvent the wheel. Don't run away from things that you know. Culture is what you do. Don't worry about changing people's culture. They'll decide which parts of their culture they want to change and which parts they want to keep the same. You don't have to protect them from changing their culture. Nonsense. Of course they're going to change their culture. When you do new things, you're changing your culture. So don't be nervous about, oh, these wonderful indigenous people, we mustn't disturb them, we mustn't turn their life upside down. Nonsense. They'll decide whether they want what you're bringing. Don't protect them from themselves. Of course they want change. Maasai women hate their houses. Oh, but their houses are so cute. They're little round houses. Aren't they beautiful? No, they're not beautiful. When a house is round, it's got no wall space. When it's got no wall space, you can't put in a rectangular bed. If you can't put in a rectangular bed, you can't sleep parallel to other people. So if you're in a bed with 2 or 3 of your children, it's much better if your bed is a rectangle. Duh. And you can't have a rectangular bed if your house is round and little. You know, people just relax. They want rectangular houses. Of course they do. Anybody would. They want a mattress. Okay. So I'm just saying, you know, I approach this just as a person with people. Bring things, bring ideas, listen to them, but don't expect them to come up with all the ideas. Don't be afraid to change things. If they want to change, they'll change. So those are the attitudes. This is what I feel I'm doing. This is what I care about. Organize the people to experience the joy of working together to make life better. That's what I like to think I'm doing. And that to me is sustainable. Once people have gotten together and experienced the joy and happiness of working together to make life better, they will want to continue that forever. My stove may be no good in 2 years. Who knows what's going to change? It's not your technology that has to be sustainable. What has to be sustainable is the change in the consciousness of the people toward a better life, toward wanting to work together and having an enjoyable time doing it. That will be sustainable. So that's not what most people call sustainability. I'm sorry. That's sustainability to me. This, I just have a couple little pictures. This is a women's group we're organizing. The woman in the middle with the white blouse and the blue head thing is Mesha Sengolyo. She's our chief women's organizer. This is a group of widows. The man there with the white shirt, he's a trainer who's teaching these women how to run a collective bank on their own, where they put in money and they loan it to themselves. And so this is an example of people getting together and enjoy, finding the joy of working together to make life better. Here's a boma, a settlement at night. Here you see light coming out of their miserable little houses. They love electricity. They love the freedom of that. When you get up in the middle of the night and your kid is sick, you don't have to build a fire to have enough light to clean up, and you can throw a switch. So these are examples of sort of changes of life that we've been able to bring about. We've organized 400 women into doing businesses and having groups. 200 women who are the ones who've been installing our stoves, who now have a big cow business, 9 groups of 25 women each that have goat businesses and banks that happen to be widows, but the important thing is that they're women. A widow is defined in a general way. We're defining it as a woman. Her husband doesn't have to be dead, but he's got to abandon her family or contribute nothing or be dead. We call that a widow. Okay, water. Look at this. This is the worst kind of water situation. Look at the water. Look at this place. The water is full of E. coli bacteria. The animals drink alongside the women who are collecting water. The water's filthy. Every day the women come and collect 40 liters of this stuff and take it home. So we worked with stoves, with solar, with this, with that, with the other thing. Finally, we said, we've got to do something about water. So there's all kinds of innovation with water. There's UV light, there's various kinds of filters, there's this, there's that, there's the other thing. I said to myself, chlorine. That's why you can drink water in Cambridge. Maybe that's why I can drink water. That's why I can drink water in Annapolis. And I met a woman in Boston who works with women in Ghana. And she found a way to help these women run little businesses of selling chlorine pills in water. So I was inspired by her. She gave a talk at the church in Harvard Square. But we decided to do it differently. We're doing it like a real chlorination system. Because Kishioki, my manager, my brother over there, he said, no, no, no. What we want is what we have in the first world. When the woman goes to collect her water, it should be clean and safe, just like in Cambridge. Not that she has to take it home and treat it, or she's got to put it on the roof of her house for 2 days for the sun to treat it. No, turn a faucet and get clean water. That was our goal. This was our very first system. This is the way their water comes. You see this thing here. This is a hole in the ground that collects rainwater. This is their water supply for 40 families. The size of it depends. The women have to be organized, and this happens to be the pond that 40 well-organized women use. And that up there on the edge, can you see that? Can you see it up on the edge? You see 2 tanks. This is a chlorination system. The chlorination system in Cambridge has 9 stages. If you Google water purification, fresh pond, that water has micro bubbles, and it's got this kind of chemical, and then it's got this and that. I think there's, I don't know, I went online. I think there are 9 stages to get you the water you're drinking at home and at Ringe. But there are really just 2 stages that are essential. One of them is you've got to put in something like alum, aluminum sulfate, and get the mud and dirt and stuff to settle to the bottom. And once you've cleared it, which in Swahili you say, now it's safi, which means clean, but it's still got the bacteria. Then you add chlorine. But first you got to get the mud out or the chlorine won't work. You got to get the silt out or the chlorine won't work. You can't rework. So it's a 2-stage system. And you see 1 tank above the other. So we have a solar panel and battery. We have a regular solar power system. And we have a 12-volt solar-driven pump. And every afternoon, you pump and fill that top tank. Takes an hour and a half or 2 hours. In the evening, you put in aluminum sulfate. By morning, the water in that top tank is clear. It's safi. You then open a valve and it gravity feeds to the bottom tank, and you put in calcium hypochlorite, which is like the same chlorine they use in Cambridge, but that's the powder form instead of the liquid form. Sodium hypochlorite is what is like Clorox. But we use calcium, and we have a concentrated solution. So the man and woman who operate this, they pump the first tank full, they put in alum. In the morning, they drain it to the second tank, put in calcium hypochlorite solution, and within an hour later, they can gravity feed water from that is actually safe for people to drink. And this is a 2,000 liter a day system. And if you give women 40 liters a day of safe water, which is very little for us, but a lot for them, that's 40 or 50 families can use this. This thing costs very little to install, and it takes only about a day. Here's a bunch of our guys putting one in. We weld and we build these frames, and this is employment. These guys get, some of them are our employees anyway, but in addition, they get nice little supplementary stipends. And they can put this in a day or 2. Costs $35 a family to install. Costs 25 cents a month per family to run because of the chemicals. Then the water comes out in the faucet. You gravity feed water from the first tank to the second tank. You then gravity feed it. Now it's salama, which in Swahili means peaceful, like salam, like shalom. So now it's safe. And so it comes to these faucets. The women come every morning. They collect their 40 liters. Here's another system. This is a 5,000 liter a day system. Here the women are all lined up in the morning. They each have 2 of these containers. These are 20 liter containers. They wait their turn. They've got their donkeys there to carry the water home. And they get 40 liters a day of safe water. Now, if they want more water, there may be more left here, but also they can take another 40 liters of dirty water. You know, they can use dirty water for some of the things, unsafe water, why not? But they get 40 liters of water they can take home and don't have to purify to give to their kids or to wash their dishes or whatever. So this is a 5,000 liter a day system. Again, the pond is on the other side of that top tank there. You pump that up in the evening. By morning, the mud is settled. The salt, you drain it to this lower tank, put in the chlorine, and an hour later, you get safe water. This is a 10,000 liter a day system. The lake is on the other side of this ridge here. And this is a 10,000 liter tank. And this one, we don't have to have a solar system because there's a big livestock watering thing right here, which you can't see. So they've got a pump. So we just have a valve. So when they aren't putting water to the livestock, they can put it there with their pump, they can fill our big tank. So that's a 10,000 liter a day system. This is a 10,000 liter a day system at a place called Le Porco. And here are a bunch of people. Who are these people? This guy on the right with the gray shirt who seems to be talking and gesturing. Let me make sure I see who he is. That's the district executive director of Monduli district. Diarrhea is the principal killer of Maasai children. It kills 35 children per 1,000 before the age of 5. Lung disease from smoke and other things kills 25 kids per 1,000 before the age of 5. And then other side effects, diseases, malaria, HIV side effects, whatever, kill another 10 or so. So it's a total of 75 kids per 1,000 die before the age of 5 in Maasai land. When I taught at the University of Dar es Salaam 35 years ago, 160 per 1,000 died before the age of 5. 1 child in 6 in Tanzania died before the age of 5. And now it's down to 75 children per 1,000. What do you think the number is in America? What would you guess? How many kids die before the age of 5 due to illness in America?
I would guess single digits.
How many?
Yeah,
I would guess single digits.
maybe maximum. Nothing above 20 or 30, I think.
I can't understand very well because of the system, but just what's the number? Just shout a number.
Single digits.
It is single digits, I think. It's less than 10. It's a little high for the developed world. I mean, you know, probably Scandinavia is doing better, New Zealand, whatever. And God knows, but it is less. It is single digits. You know, it might be 6 or 7, and of course it varies with the different communities, working class, minority, and so forth. But it's single digits. And in Tanzania, it's 75. So we go to the government and we say, goodness, you know, we're this American, we're a Tanzanian organization, we're a Tanzanian nonprofit corporation, we're a Tanzanian organization. We're supported largely by an American organization that raises money and sends it. What the hell is this? This is your main health problem in Maasai land for children. We shouldn't be doing this. You, Mr. Government, should be doing this. So we've been trying to get the government involved for about 3 years in this water work that we do, 2.5 years, let's say. So here is an example. These are government people. These are, you know, these are people with and here this guy in the gray thing is the district executive director, who is the guy who controls the budget in the Monduli district, which is sort of, a district is sort of like a county, let's say. A region is sort of like a state, and a region will have 6 or 7 districts. They have government, you know, structure. They have a central government, they have regional governments, they have district governments, they have ward governments. It's a trickle-down thing. The regional and district and non-central governments don't set independent policy very much. Here, you know, the states can fight with the federal government, the counties can fight with the state, you know, and now in this COVID thing in America, we're seeing a tremendous, we're seeing everything about federalism, about the relationship between states and the central government. In Tanzania, the regional governments follow the central government completely. They don't set any policy. So here we are pushing on the regional government, saying, come on, you guys should be funding this. We shouldn't have to fund this as an American charity. This is your key health problem in this part of your country. Well, we're finally getting somewhere. We are finally getting somewhere. There's an agency called RUWASA, Rural Water and Sanitation Agency. RUWASA, Rural Water and Sanitation Agency. They finally have an office in Arusha, in Monduli district, in our district. You know, to be successful in development work and you're working with local people, someone in the local situation has got to say, the success of this is my success. Someone has got to identify with the project and sort of own it personally and say, I want this to succeed. If you don't get some local people to say that, that's a key, not just to sustainability, that's a key to getting anything done. Well, here's the DED, the director of the district executive director. Here he is. Look, he's wonderful. He's there talking to people. Still, it didn't happen. But now we have RUWASA, the Rural Water and Sanitation Agency. The head of that has a new job, a new office in the district headquarters, and he wants to show some success. And he's finally really joined us. And so we're going to start our 7th chlorination system installation. Kichioki and I went to the region months ago and did the engineering, did the planning of the system. We've had those plans forever. Finally, RUWASA, the villagers themselves, and us are going to put in our 7th system in Loksali Ward, Lamudi Village. We're going to pay 1/3. The government's going to pay 1/3. The villagers are going to pay 1/3. We've got the money. We've raised the money. The government guy is still trying to get the money to move from the region to the district and all that sort of business. It's his problem. I think he'll do it. And the villagers then, so what we're going to do, what the government and us are going to do is we're going to buy the tanks, buy some tanks and the valves and some stuff. We're going to bring it to the village and really demonstrate to them that we're really going to do this, and they got to get their 1/3. And that's good to do that. I'm a little reluctant. I was a little reluctant about it because then what if they don't come through? And here we've spent this money. But Kishioki convinced me it's the right thing to do. And in the COVID situation, we really want to spend money in local businesses. Local businesses are in terrible shape. The economy is really breaking down terribly. Tanzania, you know, that's where the Serengeti National Park is. That's where the great African grasslands are. You know, the Serengeti National Park is the primary. If you see, you know, it could be in Kenya, but most of it's in Tanzania. If you see, you know, that's where the lions and the elephants and everybody is. You know, it's the most magnificent wildlife. Well, there's the Okavango Swamp in Botswana. There's the Serengeti and crater in Tanzania. There's the mountain gorillas in Rwanda and Uganda. There's some great wildlife areas in Africa, of course, absolutely incredible. But this is one of the best. Well, what happened when the virus hit? Overnight, tourism stopped. It was amazing. I was there. I was there when the virus hit. I was there till the middle of March. I saw the tourism industry just close down, bang. Early March, there were new companies, new tourist companies springing up almost every day. Every day we saw cars on their way to the national parks with different names on their spare tires. You know, this company, that company, another company. Think what happened. Think how many people or groups went to the bank, got a loan, bought 2 cars, started a nice little tourist business. Because of the internet, they could find customers, even though they were brand new. The Europeans and the Americans and the Asians picked them off the internet and bought a tour of Africa. Why not? And then bang, overnight it stopped. And now there are all these bank loans. How are you going to pay off that bank loan when your business has completely collapsed? We work with a tourist company called G Adventures. They're a 30-year tourist company. They're very strong. They work in 112 countries or something, right? I was on Zoom a couple of weeks ago with the CEO because we work with them, and I won't tell you, it's not, we get money from them, and we use it to put on things that their tourists can see. It's really nice. So I went online to the Zoom, and the CEO is reporting, and my God, they owe money because also all these tourists want a refund and they've got expenses. They're owed money because they put a lot of money into hotels reservations that aren't going to happen now, and they want those hotels to refund their money. Bang, you know, they've got terrible cash flow problems, and they're a 30-year-old company with a very strong credit, so they can borrow money to get through this. And then there are all these brand new companies that their credit is gone because they used it to start the company. So the economy is in terrible shape. We buy solar stuff from a guy in Arusha. He's had to let all of his employees gone but one. He's kept one employee. They don't have good unemployment insurance. They don't have ICUs all over the place. They don't have ventilators. They don't have curbside food delivery. It's a different world. It's a different world. But I'm just saying all that because we're really happy to go buy some tanks and buy some valves and buy some pipes and buy some steel to make these frames that you see. We are thrilled to be able to put a little bit of money into this economy, and this store at least can pay some salaries for a little while, maybe. They've got the stock. They don't have to go out and import the stuff. It's there in the store, and we can pay cash for it and try to put a little bit of money in. And money in these economies, of course, flows in circles. Money doesn't just get spent once. Money, you know, the economists know how to calculate this stuff, you know, whether it's 3 times or 4 times that you get to count money is going in circles. So we're going to start our seventh system. Now you say, wait, what about social distancing? And hey, they're not doing much of that. But we're carrying on. We're continuing here, okay? What are we continuing with? Clean and safe water. We're going to do our seventh system. What does that mean? That means we'll go shopping. That's reasonably safe. We'll go in our own vehicles. We won't ride public transportation, which is very dangerous there. Crowded little vans with 14 people in each one. I mean, the public transportation is like really scary if you don't want to catch a disease. We'll go to town in our own vehicles. We'll shop for stuff. We'll put together a team of welders and metal workers who work at our house, so they'll be okay. And then the government will put together 3 or 4 workers, and we'll do 3 or 4 workers, and those 6 or 7 or 8 people will go and install this water system. And, we're going to keep going. We're not going to have any great big women's organizations, but we'll keep going. We're, meetings, no celebrations. We had a women's celebration a few weeks ago when I was there, a few months ago, with 400 women there. All the women that we've organized came. So, okay, what about women's organizing for business? Well, they've got goats that have been fattening, and those goats have to be healthy, and those goats have to be sold in a couple months to middlemen who will buy them and sell them to the meat industry. So they need help, and so Kishioki and Mesha this week are going and visiting all the women's organizations, talking to them about their veterinary problems and the goats' health, and helping them out, making sure their goats make it, because you can't have a collapse of the women's businesses. Cow food production, well, we're starting a factory, a beautiful factory to make cow food, and we bought some expensive machines of grinders and mixers, and we've got a crew of about 3 or 4 guys there trying to prepare. We're shopping for raw materials, and we got a crew of 3 or 4 guys trying to prepare our factory so that when, right now there was rain, and now there's plenty of grass for the cows. But the dry period's coming, and they're going to need supplementary cow food. So we're getting our cow food factory ready for production. You don't stop doing things like that. Feedlot, cattle care and management feedlot. Well, the Nature Conservancy, which is an international organization, headquarters here in Virginia, they promised us a big grant to double the size of our feedlot. Not that big, I don't know, $10,000, not that big. To double the size of our feedlot. Our feedlot is a place where we demonstrate to the Maasai cattlemen how to take care of their cows when there's no grass because of climate change. Maybe the drought or the dry period is too long or something. So we're waiting. We're waiting to double our feedlot because the Nature Conservancy has closed down. We've got a cattle breeding herd. We've got a special hybrid cow we bought in Kenya. Well, from a guy, he had them down in Tanzania, but they're Kenyan cows. And they're a hybrid that's especially healthy and strong. And we've got a breeding herd. Well, we can keep that going in COVID-19 because we have a couple of herders we hire, and they live out in the bush with the cows, and so that's okay. Our dairy, we're actually going to close down. The cows aren't very healthy. There's a cow disease that hit them. So we're just getting them all strong and healthy. And in a couple months, as soon as we get them healthy and fat and strong, we're going to sell them. We're going to close down our dairy. It's just not working out. They're not producing enough milk to pay for itself. And it's just silly to run a dairy that doesn't pay for itself. Education and training center. We're trying to invent, we're inventing a new girls education program which we're calling the Girls Bridging School. Between primary and secondary school, girls have 3 months. They're 14 years old. They don't know much about contraception or menstruation or sexuality. They've never been really helped understand that. If they go home to their village in those 3 months between primary and secondary school, they'll be very vulnerable to sexual harassment and more, maybe pregnancy. It's a very dangerous time for girls. They're also not that well prepared for secondary school. They came out of primary school, but how is their English? How is their math? So we want to start a 3-month school, 2.5-month school at our little campus that we have for girls that we're calling the Bridging School for Girls, where they'll come and live at our place for 2.5 months. They'll have a house mother, they'll have a social worker teaching them about their bodies and about sexuality and all that. And we have a soccer field, and we have basketball and netball, and we have a restaurant, and we have a dormitory and a classroom and a computer center and a library. So we have a really nice facility. So now we're looking for money, but you cannot bring a girl into that situation and at the end of that 2.5 weeks, 2.5 months, do nothing. You've got to guarantee 4 years of secondary school sponsorship, because you bring them to this wonderful thing and then you throw it, then it's over, and now what? Even the cheapest schools, the government schools, don't have fees. They still cost money. And it'll cost about, doesn't sound like much, but it's a lot. It costs $120 a year to keep a girl in school for a government school. It costs, an inexpensive private school costs about $800 a year, $700 a year. An expensive private school costs like $1,200 a year. The girls don't have this money. So we're looking for money. We're going to American churches for sponsorship for this, but you have to sponsor not just the 2.5-month event. You have to sponsor 4 years of secondary school for your girls. So we could do this for 24 girls for $50,000. We run the summer event, $12,000 or $13,000 summer. I mean, the in-between primary and secondary school event for $12,000 or $13,000. And then we have 24 girls with 4 years of secondary school guaranteed. And that whole package of 24 girls is about $45,000, $50,000. And if you want to do it the next year with another 24 girls guaranteed with 4 years of secondary school, it's another $45,000 or $50,000. But we're going to start this, or we're trying. We haven't got the money even to do it first. And at this moment, the schools are closed in Tanzania. They closed them when I was there. Bang, they closed all the primary schools. They're going to open the universities this weekend. They closed the universities, they're opening them this weekend. And I don't know when they're going to open the other schools, maybe soon. So if they open the other schools soon enough, then, and if we can find the money, then we will do the first one of these special bridging school for girls in September, or we'll start in October. The preparation and the hiring the staff and everything will be in September. So, so this is the way it is. If you're really in the community and not a theorist, these are the kinds of things you can do and you must do and you find yourself doing. You're responding to the real people, the real situation of the people. You're not going to, fine, USAID, the World Bank, the IMF, there's all sorts of research. I'm sure there are all sorts of research papers that are telling that everything I do is the wrong thing to do. And frankly, I don't care, because I'm in the community. I'm the only outsider. We've got great leadership on the ground. I bring ideas, I bring money, I bring commitment, I bring my clever history. And we do what we can. And it's fun, and it's exciting, and the people love it. And if people say, what's your succession plan, Bob? What happens when you can't do it anymore? Because I'm very old. We'll do something else. It'll go on. It'll go on. It won't be exactly the same. Why should it be? It's very much a reflection of my personality. I've been messing around in Africa for 35 years. I failed in the Cameroon project, in Eritrea, in South Africa, and Kenya. I have failed in 4 countries. I'm proud of that. I tried to start science education projects in South Africa, Eritrea, Cameroon, and Kenya, and I failed in all 4. And now I'm quite successful. But it's, so I don't know what's going to continue when I can't do this anymore. And in a funny way, I don't care because I trust people. I don't have to force them to be like me. And I'm living an interesting life. So there you are. Call that sustainability if you want to. When you try to get a research grant, they want 3 things. Every research grant has the 3 magic words. A little foundation. Is it sustainable? Is it innovative? Will it scale up? The 3 magic words. Is it sustainable? Will it keep going even when we stop giving you money? Is it innovative? We only like to do things that no one's ever done before because that what makes us feel good about ourselves. Does it scale? We're only going to give you a little bit of money, but we'd love if this got big without us. I once got a $15,000 grant from Oxfam for education in Zanzibar. I worked in education in Zanzibar for 7 years. They gave me $15,000. I talked to the program officer, and he said, Oxfam is okay with this sort of, but there's one thing that's really disappointing us. And I said, what's that? He said, you're not doing it all over Africa. And I said to him, what's your African budget, total African budget? He said, $1.5 million. I said, give me the $1.5 million and I'll see what I can do. They gave me $15,000 and said they're disappointed I'm not doing it all over Africa. Okay, I'm going to shut up. You got any questions? Anything to say? Well, I see there, all 3 of you there.
There are like 12 participants, so there are more people than show up along the top.
Oh, good, good. Okay, well, anybody want to criticize or question or do anything, please, please, please. But if you don't want to, that's fine. We'll quit and go on with our day.
And if anybody would like to ask a question in the chat, I'd be happy to pass it along.
Mr. Lang?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Brent Arnold. I have a couple of questions.
Wonderful.
Some of them are technical. You indicated...
Well, Brent, tell me who you are. You're a teacher at the school?
I'm a substitute teacher at the high school, and my background is in software engineering.
Aha, okay. I'm kind of a low-tech guy.
That's okay. Whatever works. You indicated you're about to try to start your 7th water system.
Yes.
So what, I don't have a concept of how many villages are in this area, but how many are without water systems?
Okay, there are 2 questions, good questions, Brent. There are 2 questions, access and quality.
Okay.
Right. They're both very serious problems. Okay, the Tanzanian government has done almost nothing for these people with regard to water. There are very few wells. The groundwater is very, very deep. Wells are expensive. There are people trying to do wells, but they're very few. So the water is in these surface ponds. There are, just the district that we're working, there are 220,000 Maasai people. Okay. Let's say a family is 6. A woman, when she gathers water, let's say she's gathering it for 6 people. We can only do these things where the people are kind of organized, because they have a hole in the ground that collects rainwater, and if they're lucky, it's full year round, and if they're unlucky, they go through a couple months or more a year where they have to get on their donkeys and go very, very far to find one of these holes in the ground that is full of water. So access is a very serious problem, but let's assume we have one of these. Now they have to be kind of organized, and they tend to have sort of water collectives. So maybe 100 families use this hole in the ground, this dugout depression. 100 families use it. They've elected a leader. They've elected who keeps them organized. If it needs deepening, they get out there with their picks and shovels and deepen it. So it might be 100 families. It might be 200 families, but there'll be an organization of families that use a water pond. The water pond is filthy, full of E. coli bacteria. We can put in a chlorine system at the edge of that pond where you take the number of families and you assume they each need 40 or 50 liters a day, and you multiply by the number of families and you get 5,000 liter a day system, 10,000 liter a day system, and we can put it in for $35 a family. We're doing our 7th. We're only up to about 20,000 liters a day. So you take 220,000 people and you divide by 6. What do you get? You get 3,000? So
3,000 plus, yep.
Okay, 3,000 plus. Let's call that the number of families. Let's call that the number of people who need 40 liters a day. We're not providing that yet. I'm sorry, it's 220,000. Divide that by 6. That's 30,000.
Yep.
30,000 families. We're providing this for about 800 families right now out of 30,000. So we're telling the government, for Christ's sake, later you can have pipes, you can have all kinds of modern stuff, but for now, for God's sake, let's do this on a much bigger scale and get these kids healthier. So it's 30,000 families that could use this. And let's say they organize, I take 30,000 and I divide by 100, that's 300. Let's say we could do it with 200, 250 of these systems. We could be bringing safe water to essentially all the kids for 200 or 250 of these systems. We'd love to step back. We'd love to just be consultants and engineers and get the government to say, oh my God, it's a short-term solution, but we're in the short term here, 5 years, 10 years before we're bringing decent water to this part of our country in real quantities with real modern distribution systems. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. And they're not doing it, but we've been pushing and pushing. Well, finally, we're going to have a system where the government's involved, and we're going to pay a third. And I want to back away. I want to be a consultant and an engineer. I mean, not me personally, but I mean our organization. Just be consultants and engineers. But that's the scale of it, sir. That's what they really need.
That is incredibly sobering. Is the lack of access and water because the central government is just overwhelmed with other things? Forget COVID-19.
Yeah, forget COVID-19. That's a weird. Yeah, I don't know. They don't do enough. I don't know. I'm sure there are cities, there are towns, there are villages, there are places that are getting money. There's a road being built from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma, a beautiful modern road. It must be costing a fortune. The president wants to move the capital to Dodoma, sort of like Brasilia, that kind of thing. Yeah. A beautiful road is being built between Dar es Salaam and Dodoma. Not only is the government neglecting these people from my point of view, but the NGOs are too. If you Google Maasai, mm-hmm. And you'll probably get 30 or 40 NGOs that are doing Maasai work in Tanzania. I don't know. And some of them are okay. Some of them are giving scholarships to girls. Some of them are running a clinic somewhere. But when we're out in the field all the time and we never run into anybody, there's just a lot of nonsense, a lot of overhead, a lot of dishonesty about where money goes. We put in grids, we put in microgrids in the settlements, okay? We invented that. I mean, we designed grids. So a settlement has 12 houses and it's got, 2 men and 10 women, and the women each live in their own house with their kids. And so we designed this thing where we put in a microgrid, okay? We pick the owner of this boma, it's called, this settlement pays us $300 or $400. We put up the rest. The whole thing costs about $1,200. You put in panels and batteries and underground wires to all the houses. The women, and phone chargers and lights in every house. Unbelievably wonderful for poor people. Having electricity is the first huge step out of poverty. It's huge. We got the money to pilot that from USAID, United States Agency for International Development. We got it through the National Academy of Sciences. It's a long story. We piloted it. I designed it. I over-designed it. Now we're much more lean. We really know how to do it. Oops, what did I do? Well, here it is. Okay, there's the results of a grid. USAID was thrilled. We put in pilot grids, 1 or 2 or 3, I forget how many. We had a big celebration. USAID came from Dar es Salaam, gave speeches. They hired a very expensive videographer to publicize it and made a beautiful video that didn't mention us. Then we went to Washington and to Dar es Salaam, to USAID. Kisioki was in this country at that time. I brought him over. We went to a solar engineering course together in Colorado, and we were in Washington saying, okay, it was wonderful. Let's scale it up. Let's do more. They wouldn't do it because we were not creating profitable investment opportunities for American companies. That's what you run into.
This is World Bank with a USAID name on it.
This was the USAID, United States Agency for International Development. I've been in Africa for 35 years, Brent. I've got so many stories.
Yeah,
You can imagine how many stories I have. And I've got failure stories for Cameroon, Kenya, South Africa, and Eritrea, which are even better. But this is what you run into. This is what we run into. We run into government indifference. We run into foreign aid bullshit. But hey, the people love getting together to do things. They're thrilled to move forward. Look at this picture. Can you imagine? I go to these kinds of settlements at night and you see light coming out of these little houses. It brings tears to my eyes still to walk around one of these bomas. It's unbelievable. And it's cheap. It's so cheap. It's so inexpensive. If you don't waste the money, and if you don't spend it all on overhead, and you don't spend it all on research in Washington, and you don't spend it all on razor wire and German shepherds and hardship pay and tuition to international school. And the USAID budgets per year, per American in the field, $450,000 to $500,000. You take any USAID project that's got Americans out in Africa somewhere, in the budget is $500,000 per American. That goes to their pay, their transport, their education for the kids, their security, their this, their that. That goes just to the American, not into his pocket. but into the general support of that person. I mean, the money is just wasted. You can do wonders with pennies. Look, one of these water systems costs $35 per family. Okay, you multiply, so 100 families, what are we talking about? $3,500 to put in a clean water system for 100 families that have 500 kids who have diarrhea? So, yeah, but it sounds like I'm bitter. I'm not.
No. I appreciate where you're coming from. It's just,
I'm having the time of my life.
I with respect to your water system. So how does the silt get out of that first tank and the mud?
Oh, okay. So picture the first tank. It's a big thing, okay?
Right.
Maybe we can see one here. Like this is a small one. These are 2,000 liter tanks. There, you get the scale from the people.
Right.
Those are 5,000 liter tanks. Okay, so we want to use gravity. Once we've loaded it, we don't want to touch the water again.
Mm-hmm.
So the first tank has a solar pump system. This one really does have a solar pump system. There's a solar panel on top of that first tank, and there's a battery and the whole thing, battery and controller and everything. So now you fill it. It takes 2 or 3 hours every afternoon or evening. Now you've got a hose coming out from a valve that's about 20 centimeters from the bottom of the tank.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got another hose coming out from those valves that's right at the bottom, and use that for cleaning. So the bottom gets kind of silty and mud and stuff, and you use the dirty water from the pond, and you open the bottom valve and you flush it back into the pond.
Got it. Okay. I take it these are 24-volt systems, the pumps?
12. These are 12.
12, okay.
Yeah, it depends on it depends on the pump you can find. The pumps are from China. There's some very, very good 12 and 24 volt DC pumps, submersible pumps that you can buy even on Amazon. I mean, you can import them from China directly into Africa if you can. But most of the pumps we've used, I've carried over there in my suitcases and bought them from Amazon.
Wow. Are the solar panels from China as well, or are they?
Yeah. But we don't import the solar panels. We used to import everything. For all of our electrical work, we used to import everything ourselves from Germany, from China. But now we just there are plenty of businesses in Tanzania, although the COVID thing is smashing the hell out of them. But there are lots of businesses and they do the importing. You know, we went to our solar guy and we said, why don't you import these pumps? We went to our plumbing guy and said, we buy the plumbing from a shop next to the solar shop. And we said, well, maybe you could import these pumps. And they said, okay, but we have to charge 3 times the cost of the pump at the factory in order to even break even because of tariffs and shipping and all that stuff. And we have to go to China and we have to arrange it. You cannot arrange for these things from a distance. Someone has to go. Well, they're going anyway for other things, but someone has to go. Sit down with the people at the factory in China and make sure you're dealing with the right people, that they're for real. I tried to start a computer business in Dar es Salaam years ago, just directly importing all the parts, the motherboards and everything from China. And I got totally screwed. I failed totally because I didn't go to China and I didn't sit down with the real people and arrange for it to really happen. And I lost all the money that I'd raised from people. I've made some big mistakes, but that's okay.
That's what life's about, yeah.
I started a laundromat in Zanzibar. I have a snake zoo in Zanzibar. I started a snake zoo in Zanzibar. That's still going. It's not mine. It belongs to them. Yeah, I started a snake zoo in Zanzibar. I'm probably the only guy you'll ever meet who started a snake zoo in Zanzibar.
I take it's all local snakes, right?
Yeah, there's snakes everywhere there. Right near the house where we live in Monduli, there was a huge cobra, a huge spitting cobra living next door that the dogs got into trouble with. We have a couple dogs, and they got into a little trouble with the spitting cobra.
Wow.
But thanks for the questions. And yeah, it's a very simple system. It's very inexpensive, and it's desperately needed. Although, someday there's a group called Water Boys, which is really interesting. What's his name? A defensive end from the Philadelphia Eagles, who is a very famous football player, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and came down and realized that the Tanzanians desperately need water. And he started something called Water Boys, and he's got professional athletes who were loaded, donating a huge amount of money to his personal foundation, and they've dug 35 or 40 wells in Tanzania. With money, you can do this stuff. And professional athletes have got money. And he's got a heart, and he's got a soul, and he says, we're going to dig wells. It's fantastic. So I've been trying to link up with these guys. I've done everything I can. Haven't succeeded yet. But if you Google waterboys.org, you'll find this foundation supported by professional athletes doing water work in Tanzania. So I'm sort of a duct tape and pipe wrench kind of inventor. Very low tech. Someone said, why do you keep doing this stuff, Bob? And I said, because I get to be 11 years old again. I get to do stuff like I did when I was a kid. Because some ways working in Africa is like going back in time. It's not so much space. It's space, but it's also time. You get to go back to a simpler technology. Although, of course, word processors and every Maasai woman has a cell phone. And it's a tremendous benefit to their lives. Every one of these rural Africans has a cell phone. In this picture you're looking at here, every one of these women has a cell phone. And that was because the end of apartheid. When South Africans weren't welcome up in Africa during apartheid. When apartheid ended, they were welcome. They came flowing north with their money and their technology, and they transformed the place. It was South African money that brought all this technology north. During apartheid, South Africans only got into Malawi a little bit. They couldn't get up into Tanzania. Tanzania, the ANC had a camp, and boy, that had very high security because of apartheid and fear of assassinations. But now the South Africans are welcome with their money, with their investments.
Are there any other questions?
Flo, I thought I saw you about to speak.
No,
What's that?
the question got answered a while back.
All right. Anybody else?
Well, thanks for being there, Brent. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So you're
Likewise.
an online substitute teacher?
To some extent right now, but normally I'm physically located.
That must be so weird to be online substitute.
Yeah, it is.
Well, listen, I enjoyed being here. I hope I don't talk too much, but that's what you wanted, I guess, was a talk. So
Very much appreciated.
Yeah.
I'm really glad to share with you my crazy point of view.
Yes. Thank you for coming and speaking.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a lot of information that I hadn't previously known much about.
Yeah, and it's a philosophy. You know, it's a way of looking at these things, which I've tried to share with you. Not just the details. You know, it's a life. It's a way of living life, which I wanted to share. Okay. So shall we call it a day?
Sure.
Okay.
So, oh wait, I'm seeing things in chat, and yeah, it's all right. Good.
There's
So,
one thing up here. If I stop share, I think it turns off the PowerPoint.
yeah.
Oh, there are people. Hello. Hello, people.
Hello.
Okay. So thank you.
All right.
And I'll give you the place to send the check later. No, I know. Okay, you guys, take care. Take care of
All right.
yourselves. Bye-bye.
Goodbye,
Take
everyone.
care, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.